Patty Jenkins goes her own way, and Danny Elfman's back, baby. Oingo boingo. I'm Sasha Pearl Raver, and this is Screen Junkies News. In a conversation with Business Insider, Patty Jenkins discussed what impact critical response to the darker tone of Batman vs. Superman had on Wonder Woman. The answer? Zero. Jenkins stated, quote, "In our case, we were incredibly fortunate. DC didn't ever give me a mandate of tone, and I pitched to Warner Brothers and DC 10 years ago. I want to make the origin movie a la the first Superman with Christopher Reeve. I want to go back and try to do a grand piece of cinema for her," end quote. She went on to say that, quote, "It feels to me like the right spirit to do Wonder Woman in any way. Of course, there could be other great versions, but she's such a clean, grand superhero that I really like the idea of her eliciting that kind of treatment in a big, classic movie." Ah, yeah, you and everyone else, Patty. Joining me to talk about this are Danielle Radford and DJ Wooldridge.
Yay.
Hi, guys. Yay, Patty Jenkins.
Yay.
So we know that this has been such a critical response. There's been such a fan response to Wonder Woman. And the DCEU has had successes. They've had missteps. What do we think this is going to do in terms of the universe moving forward? Are we going to see a lighter tone? Are we going to see more of like the Patty Jenkins version of all of these worlds? What do you think, Danielle?
I think we absolutely could. I think that, and there are people who loved the Snyder films. They really loved Batman vs. Superman. There are people who really loved Man of Steel and Suicide Squad and that kind of version of it. But I do think that when you have something that has been such a cultural touchstone and has been tweeted about, what was it, like the most of any movie ever?
It's crazy.
You have to take a look at that and say like, oh, okay, well, what worked there and how can we apply those lessons to everything else that we're doing?
Well, and this is a lesson that Patty Jenkins was like, I'm going to teach you this a decade ago. She's been pitching this for 10 years, Deej. I mean, can you imagine going in a decade ago and saying like, this is it. I don't care about fitting into a movie universe. This is the movie I want to make.
Well, it's interesting because originally when they were talking about doing this movie post Batman v Superman, it was Michelle McLaren was the director that they had on tap, and I wonder if this, you know, she's saying she didn't compromise the tone, but I'm wondering if they're like, hey, maybe with the way things are going on, Patty Jenkins would actually give us the movie that we want to make right now,
right?
As opposed to, I mean, I don't know, I wasn't part of those conversations. But I'm wondering, but I'm wondering if that factors into it. It's also interesting to note that like the company line has kind of been that it's not so much a DC, like not everything in the DC is supposed to have the same feel, the DC movies, and they're more filmmaker based. And so maybe according to them, that's kind of what we're seeing, is that Wonder Woman was always going to be different. Wonder Woman was always supposed to be different. And so different flavors for different people.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, there's been other directors who said that they didn't necessarily want to work within the superhero genre because they felt like it was directing by committee. Right.
Yeah.
Which I think is something, like we had Jordan Peele come on the show. He talked about that. Ava DuVernay has talked about that as well. Yeah. I mean, Danielle, what do you think about all this?
Oh, yeah, no, because that was like, so back in talking to Essence Magazine, the magazine for fancy black ladies, talking to Essence Magazine, Ava DuVernay said a while back, you know, in the end, it comes down to story and perspective, and we just didn't see eye to eye. Better for me to realize that now than cite creative differences later.
And this is when they were talking to her about doing Black Panther.
Yes, this is when they were talking to her about doing Black Panther. And so you do see, you know, especially now that, and it's obviously so many of these franchise movies, it's not just these big, you know, universe movies in Marvel DC. You've also got the Dark Universe coming up. You've got big franchises like Transformers.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
I don't know, man. Dark Universe, I think.
Jury's still out.
I will still say, not as bad as I thought it was going to be, The Mummy.
Hashtag Sasha Pearl Raver, love The Mummy.
Hashtag don't you misquote me. Hashtag I went in thinking it was going to be an unmitigated disaster. And there were parts where I was like, this is kind of fun.
Pro
It
tip,
wasn't horrible.
go into every movie thinking it's going to be a total disaster. Because it can only go up. It can only go up.
I was going to say go into every movie and hope for the best.
No, I'm saying go in thinking it's going to be awful.
Is this like dating tips with
all you
DJ?
can do is
Like,
be pleasantly
just expect
surprised.
the worst.
There have been so many movies. There have been so many movies where everybody's like, "Oh, it's the worst. It's the worst movie ever." And I go and it's like, it's not awful.
So basically, what
just
you're saying
neg
is
that
like,
movie.
have horrible, really bad low expectations, and every day you will be pleasantly surprised.
You'll be like, "Hey, solid C." You know what I mean?
Just a good.
So that means you're still not going to college.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there's been a lot of movies that I've been told are the worst things ever, and you go and you're like, hey, C.
C.
Solid C.
All right,
Solid C.
Well, you know what wasn't a C? Wonder Woman.
Oh, it was
Wonder Woman
not.
was not a solid C, and I think that it's interesting to know that when you do have something that is so successful, you're going to see sort of across the board, not just in the DCEU, not just in superhero movies. We're going to see it in television. We're going to see it in other films. Like, there's going to be this push because Hollywood does have a bit of groupthink.
Yeah.
That worked for them. Let's all do it.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing that works for pretty much everybody, Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman, who has been brought in to rescore Justice League. So originally it was Junkie XL. He has been replaced.
Yeah.
He spoke with the Hollywood Reporter and he said, quote, as my mentor Hans Zimmer told me, you haven't made it in Hollywood as a composer until you've been replaced on a project. So I guess I finally graduated this week. It pains me to leave the project, but a big thanks to Zach for asking me to be a part of his vision, and I wish Danny, Joss, and Warner Brothers all the best with Justice League.
Was the picture next to that, was that a picture of Junkie XL?
Yeah, that's what he looks like, a grown man.
He looks like, I would assume with the Junkie XL that he'd be like 5 years younger than me.
No, he's like a, you know, you gotta have a moniker.
Mad Max's score was amazing.
Oh, so
it was
good.
really, really good. One of the best parts of that amazing movie.
Guitar,
so Mad Max score or Pee-wee's Big Adventure score.
Exactly.
Mad Max score. Although Junkie XL did do my favorite part of the BVS theme, which is Wonder Woman's theme.
Right,
Like
he had a hand in that.
ripping guitar riff.
Yeah.
Obviously, like there's a guitar thing with Junkie XL.
Yeah.
But when you talk about Tim Burton, it's, oh yes. You've got Batman, you've got the 2002 Spider-Man, you've got Men in Black, you've got The Simpsons. The Simpsons.
So classic.
I mean, Danny Elfman's
Gift
the man.
that.
Danny Elfman is
Fans at home, gift that.
the man. So when we're talking about like there being sort of this new direction, Danny Elfman is a very different direction than Junkie XL.
Yes.
Where do you see this going, Deej?
I wonder if maybe the decision making is that we wanted a theme that was more iconic, like something that was more hummable, something that people went away with. Although, I mean, like, people remember the score of Mad Max and they remember that segment of the Wonder Woman score. I don't know. It seems weird to me. I feel like this would normally be reversed. Wouldn't you have, like, Danny Elfman do the bulk of your score, and then when he's off too busy doing other things, you get a very good a musical composer, but somebody that's not nearly as established as he is.
Right. Yeah, but like Danny Elfman doesn't want to do these anymore. That's the thing. Is that, like, he's said, you know, he wants to do smaller movies, indie movies. He was like, if you're broke, if you're broke, give me $1 and I'll score your movie, is essentially what he's made. Yeah. So I don't think that he wants to take on like doing an entire thing from scratch. So maybe in something like this where are we getting a full new score? Are we getting just like parts of it? Like, how is this going to work?
What are we getting now? Because we've had the success of Wonder Woman. We've had now Zack Snyder step away because of personal issues. So now we've got Joss Whedon taking over Justice League. Now we've got Danny Elfman coming in. It feels like, I don't want to call this course correction. Yeah. I think we are seeing a remolding. They were like, okay, we've shaped this and we've done this, and now we're going to do a different version. Right. Yeah. And I think that in that version, we are going to get something that fits in with what Patty Jenkins is saying, which is a little bit lighter. Yeah. Like when I think of the Mad Max score versus Simpsons, Danny Elfman definitely has dark tones in his music. He always works with Tim Burton. But there is something sort of like...
Playful?
Playful is exactly the word. Thank you, Deej.
You're welcome. I tried.
So when you think about Joss Whedon, again, there is a playfulness. Right. Yeah. When you think about the parts about Wonder Woman that were so great, a lot of that is sort of that playfulness. Also, we skipped something that the wonderful Danielle Radford pulled up in her research, which was shocking to me, which is... This is how the studio can sometimes be so wrong, and that when the studio's voice is heard too clearly, you end up with a lesser film. In Wonder Woman, the studio wanted Patty Jenkins to cut the no man's land scene. If you haven't seen the movie, don't listen. If you have seen the movie, that's one of the best parts.
That's where she becomes Wonder Woman. That period where she's crossing the battlefield and the bullets are coming after her and she's holding still so that the guys can like go around. And that is where she becomes Wonder Woman.
How do you cut that and not have the movie that we got?
Yeah, I don't know. But I think it's good. I personally am somebody that likes to go see movies. I prefer the idea that they let their directors have a little bit more leash to tell the stories that they want to tell, even if it's not always a universal home run with everybody. I know this is counterintuitive to what Hollywood likes to do because they want to hit their 4 quadrants. They want literally every person on the planet to go see it. They want all that money. Yeah. But I'd rather have a more specific story that maybe not everybody's over the moon about, but that people can connect with on a more intimate level.
Sure.
And so, yeah, I don't want every movie in your series to feel the same. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I like the idea of like you hire the right people and then you let them go with it.
Yeah.
Like that's what I enjoy about seeing with movies. And even when you look at kind of Marvel Phase 1, it was a lot more of every movie felt different.
Yeah.
And then somewhere around like Phase 2, they all started becoming very similar to each other.
Yeah.
Well, so what does that mean if you want a director to have their own voice when you have somebody like Joss Whedon coming in to take over what Zack Snyder has already laid so much foundation and groundwork for?
Yeah.
Do we think that now, because we know they're doing reshoots, we know they're doing reshaping, we know we've got a new score, what will the Joss Whedon signature be on this movie? Will the scenes that he is now reshooting stick out like a sore thumb? Will it be something where there is like a total tonal shift? How will this all be integrated, Danielle?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm super interested to see how they wind up doing this, because I do feel like when you bring in someone like a Joss Whedon, he's going to add his Whedonisms. We're definitely going to see a lot more people adding E to the end of things for no reason.
Yeah.
Maybe some more like really sexy love triangles, but seriously, like I don't know, because Joss Whedon has such a, especially when it comes to dialogue and things like that, because you know there is a script, but there's no way he's going to get on set and not be like, oh, maybe let's have you say this thing, or oh, maybe let's have you say this thing. This is like a fun thing. And I do think he injects some of that playfulness in it. So is it going to be like Whiplash, where you're going from one scene that feels like this and then one scene that feels like that? Or are, like you said, are they going to go back and now reshape everything to kind of fit what Joss wants to do?
What do you think, DJ?
Or will Joss make it so he's just tweaking elements of the movie that already exists to bring out the best? Because that's what every time you're making one of these movies, that's all you're trying to do is make the best version of that movie that's happening. So I don't know. I'd like to think that they had a solid foundation, and that Zack Snyder, according to the reports, was already talking to Joss Whedon about just getting his advice on stuff, because let's be honest, he's already done this thing twice. Only one person has done this type of movie before, and he's done it twice. And so already getting his advice, and so maybe just adding to what's already there, and hopefully it'll all feel of a whole.
Well, as somebody who writes and considers himself a writer, I can tell you it is so much easier to edit and rework something that has already been like laid out than it is to start with a blank page.
Yo, it
Joss
sure
Whedon
is.
does not have a blank page. He has a very well written thing that he is working off of, and now he just has to like shape and mold. And now with the influence
he gets
of
to
Patty
do the fun
Jenkins,
part.
He gets to do the fun part.
And now with the influence of Patty Jenkins and Wonder Woman, we will see where this goes. But do you have any hopes?
Please give me a good Justice League movie, please. I just really want.
Look at the pain.
It so hurts.
I just want it. I just want it to be amazing, because I love every one of those characters in that group shot. I love every one of them, and I just want it to be great.
What do you want, Danielle?
Yeah, like I already had like hopes seeing a lot of like all of that Aquaman stuff. I love Bro Aquaman. Aquaman is amazing. All the stuff with him on like just let's go, dude. Come on. Yeah, there's a reason why they're changing what he looks like in the comics to look like Jason Momoa, because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? But so I was already looking forward to the Justice League movie. I saw Wonder Woman and I was like, oh snap, like I get to see more of her in Justice League. Like that just made me more excited. And then of course you had Joss Whedon. I am a huge Whedon fan. Like dumb huge, like can quote and recite things that I should probably use that part of my brain for better stuff. So right now, like I'm not going in expecting anything. I'm going to let the movie happen for me, but I have real high hopes that it's going to be.
Go in expecting it to be really, really bad.
I'm not going to neg Justice League,
go
DJ.
in expecting it to be really, really bad, and so you can be pleasantly surprised.
Well, we would like to be pleasantly surprised by what you guys think. Are you excited to now know that Danny Elfman's going to be scoring this? And do you think that Patty Jenkins will create a shift, a tectonic shift in the DCEU? Let us know in the comments below. You can tweet us at SJ News. Make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, you can always click here for more Screen Junkies news. See you soon.